Welcome back to the High Release. Today, I'm discussing which players I am most excited for in the West. If you have not already, check out my video discussing the players in the East. Some teams I discuss have role players that I'm excited about, and others could just be the stars if there's not many guys to rave about. I'm just stating who I think will be interesting to keep an eye on this season, depending on their role or individual skill set. First up, we're starting with the Golden State Warriors. With the Warriors, adding a guy like CP3 to the team is probably the biggest what if of the season. What if he stays healthy? What if he starts? What if he comes off the bench? What is their season going to look like with Chris Paul? A point guard who's primarily been a slower paced player who runs a lot of pick and rolls. He's made big men a lot of money in his career with his play style, and this is interesting because if you watch Steph Curry, arguably the greatest point guard ever, alongside Magic Johnson, he isn't that type of point guard. He's great on ball, don't get me wrong, but what makes him so dangerous is having a team that plays a fast-paced game, moving the ball around while Steph runs around off ball for open looks. With CP's playstyle and age, it's going to be interesting to see how it works with the team. Will he slow down the team's pace? Will they speed him up? Not sure. But what I am sure of is his leadership he brings to teams. Usually he sparks young players to become greater at their role or even step into a bigger role because of his playmaking. Now, this team has Steph, Clay, Draymond, and Wiggins, so it may not be the case this time, but he will definitely help their games and should get Kevon Looney some nice looks at the rim too. I think the key point to having CP in Golden State is running with the bench unit and seeing how Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody play alongside him. He could get them on the right track for the future because currently the playstyle of this team is mostly beneficial to the aforementioned stars. Moving to LA, the Clippers are running it back with the same injury-riddled team as always. I think it will be interesting to see Russell Westbrook start and finish the season with the team this year after being traded to the Clippers from the Lakers last year at the deadline. But for this team, I'm looking forward to seeing a progression from Terrence Mann, who has shown glimpses of being productive as a starting point guard. Hopefully having Westbrook will not hinder his growth, but having Paul George and Kawhi rest for the playoffs and or get injured in the season, he should have plenty of opportunities to have a great season. Staying in Los Angeles, the Lakers are bringing back a loaded roster. With the additions of Jackson Hayes, Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish, Gabe Vincent, and Christian Wood, this team now has the core that brought them to the Western Conference Finals along with talented role players and youth. Surrounding your stars with talent is key, and this team now has a roster that can allow LeBron and AD to rest or take less minutes without going down 20 points when they do so. And has the excitement for Austin Reeves been overrated? Frankly, I don't think so. He doesn't shy away from being the guy, as seen in the playoffs where he would take over games while waving LeBron James off to the side before converting his own ISO plays. Reeves is heading into a season with a nice paycheck and is probably considered the third option on a team that maybe expected D'Lo to become the third option after this trade. What an awesome journey he's had in his career, and this guy's only 25 years old. So looking forward to watching him for the Lakers this year. In Phoenix, we have a 2K My NBA team that has been assembled by management. You've got Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Ayton back, and they added Bradley Beal. So basically, get buckets, get buckets, get buckets. Oh, Ayton, here's a layup for you. Get buckets, and so on. I think it's going to be interesting to see Beal in a new role where he finally has help. It's been a really long time since we've seen him and John Wall play well together, and that was before Beal started to take off on his own. So I think his scoring goes down naturally, but he should get plenty of assists with the weapons around him and the gravity he's going to draw on the defense because of his own scoring abilities. You can see in his last 2 months of the season, he was averaging nearly 6 assists per game in Washington, so I expect this to be the case in Phoenix as well. Sacramento is coming off an impressive season that finally put them back in the playoffs after 16 long seasons. The longest playoff drought in the league. De'Aaron Fox is clearly the leader on this team and has become a top point guard in the league. But I'm high on Keegan Murray this season. I think he's going to show up with a lot of confidence this season after being a big factor in this team making the playoffs. He played in the Summer League this year and looked like a go-to scorer, albeit it was the Summer League. But his scoring adds so much to this team, who already have 2 All-Stars and 3-point shooters surrounding him. Also, can't wait to see him match up against his brother in Portland. The reigning champs. Look, you know the deal. Denver has Jokic, the best big man in the league. You can say he was snubbed the MVP because of voter fatigue. I believe so. I expect an awesome season from him, but I'm really looking forward to watching Jamal Murray next season. His career was trending upward before the bubble, and when the bubble came, we saw an explosion of scoring, matching toe-to-toe with Donovan Mitchell, dropping 50 points, scoring like crazy. Then we saw the injuries, and we weren't sure what to expect from him when he came back. Fast forward, and he's an NBA champion. Losing Bruce Brown to the Pacers will put more of a load on the Canadian point guard, and he will show the league that it's not all Nikola Jokic putting in work in the Mile High City. I could be wrong, and MPJ may be the one to watch, but I like Jamal for the upcoming season. For Minnesota, I'd be lying if I'm not excited to watch Anthony Edwards come into this season with all the motivation in the world to be the next MJ. But if you're looking for someone who isn't an obvious pick, it's going to be Jaden McDaniels. This man has supposedly grown 2 inches over the summer. And add that to his 15 points per game in March over the course of 14 games and his defense. The Timberwolves have someone who is a perfect role player to go alongside their star players. I'm also looking forward to seeing their rookie Leonard Miller, but he's going to have trouble cracking the rotation this season. The Thunder have so much talent that I feel they should make a big trade to win now. You have young guys who are good enough to put you in the playoffs with a superstar scorer in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Josh Giddey is close to a walking triple-double. But also, why make a trade now? You're bringing in the #1 overall pick who was out all last season, and he's ready to compete for the Rookie of the Year. And Cason Wallace was the 10th overall pick in this year's draft out of Kentucky. Let's take a look at their ages. It's hard to decide because Giddey is only 20 years old. Chet is actually older than him at 21 years old, and Cason is 19. So they have every right to prove themselves this year too, but I think you have to be anticipating what Jalen Williams is going to do next season. In March, we got to see him turn it up a notch to 20 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, and 4.5 assists per game. I'm expecting a big season from him this year, with Josh Giddey's playmaking allowing him and Shai to be the top 2 scorers. I don't know, maybe I'm excited to watch everyone here. Portland is going to be tough because you now have Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and Chris Murray who are ready to put their mark on the league while still having Dame and Anthony Simons who can score with the best of them. But I think I'm looking forward to seeing Scoot here. He thought he was the clear #1 pick, but fell to the Blazers with the 3rd pick. His athleticism and scoring could be compared to Derrick Rose if all goes well. If there's a trade to send Dame elsewhere though, it's hard not to say Shaedon Sharpe after averaging 24 points per game in the last 10 games of the season. Utah is interesting because they have Lauri Markkanen, a 7-footer who can score with the best of them on high shooting splits, and Jordan Clarkson, who's a proven 6-man scorer, but outside of that, they are relatively young. They drafted a scoring point guard out of Baylor in Keontae George, and he had a nice summer league, but believe it or not, Talen Horton-Tucker may be onto something here in Utah. It's a small sample size, but in his last 5 games of the season, he averaged 28 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, and 7 assists. Now, I was never one to think he was a hidden gem in LA, but who knows? Maybe he figures it out this season. In Dallas, Luka magic is real. So when I don't mention him, don't think I'm not excited to watch what's in store this season. Maybe an 82-point triple-double, but I'm excited to see Kyrie play next to him for a full season. Lately, Kyrie has been reliable on the court and kept the Nets afloat in the 10 games without KD last season, putting up 30 points per game, almost 6 rebounds, 7 assists, almost 2 steals, and a block a game. Yeah, I had to do a double take at those defensive stats too. And in the 16 games he did play with Luka, he averaged 27 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, steal and a half, and half a block on nearly 50-40-90 shooting splits. Remember how Luka took role players and Jalen Brunson to the Western Conference Finals? Well, he now has a full season with a guy who played alongside another all-time great. They came back from a 3-1 lead and took arguably the greatest 3-point shot in finals history. This is going to be a fun season. Just please stay healthy and sane, Kyrie. If you are watching Houston, you can't wait to see Dillon Brooks. But really, this team is going to be fun to watch with Jalen Green and Amen Thompson as some of the fastest guys in the league. These two may have the best fast break highlights of the year. I have to go with Jalen Green here because his scoring has been elite at times, but now having a real point guard in Fred VanVleet and entering his third season, Jalen is ready to be taken seriously. He's been putting in work at the Rico Hines runs this summer and has a lot more talent around him this season, so it should be interesting to see how his production plays out. The Grizzlies are in a weird position because Ja Morant is suspended for his first 25 games, taking him out of any NBA award conversations. With that, Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart are going to have a lot on their plate, and Grizzlies fans should be thankful that they have Marcus Smart for that period. But looking at that roster, with Smart and Derrick Rose in the locker room, I think Ja has a chance to come back from the suspension playing his best basketball of his life. He may have to carry the team back up the standings depending on how they play during his suspension, and if he does so, look for Grizzlies fans to be upset that he can't have a chance to win the MVP this season. I was originally going to take Trey Murphy III for New Orleans after showing up big for the team, averaging 15 points on 48% from the field, 40% from three, but unfortunately we learned that he has torn his left meniscus during a workout. With that, I'm going to choose the obvious in Zion Williamson. Hear me out. He is now going to be a father around November, and sometimes we see that this can be the best motivation for players to hone into their craft. I'm hoping to see a healthy Zion this season because before being injured, he averaged 26 points, 7 rebounds, nearly 5 assists on 60% from the field, and was looking like an unstoppable point forward, carrying his team all the way to the top seed in the West. For San Antonio, come on, who isn't excited to see Wemby? Victor Wembanyama is the most hyped prospect since LeBron James, and being drafted by Pop with the history he has with big men, it can't get any better than that. He's going to need some time to get adjusted to the league with his size of 7.5 feet, reportedly, and 225 pounds soaking wet, but his skill set is unheard of at his height. He could be the next GOAT, or he could be the next Bol. That wraps up my players to watch for the West. Let me know if you liked this video by liking and subscribing to my channel. Also, in the comments below, tell me which of these players you are most excited about and who would you have liked to see on this list.